Hi everyone and welcome to Quality Shot. And in today's video, we are going to review day 5 of the first Test match between Sri Lanka and England at Galle. Extremely eventful day. A lot of wickets fell. A lot of runs were scored. No, that didn't really happen. It basically, what happened was Bairstow and Lawrence basically knocked off the runs, and England won comfortably by 7 wickets after a bit of a hectic night, hectic start of their innings, start of their chase yesterday. So overall, a really good performance by England and a deserved win for England. And we don't have an England perspective today, so let's start with a neutral perspective, Fizan. Let's go for that.
I don't mind. I can give the England perspective if need be. Maybe you can be the neutral, being the host. I think from an England point of view, they'll be happy considering that, you know, as you said, the start of that second innings was very shaky, with Zach Crawley and Dom Sibley getting out for 8 and 2, and then Joe Root 1. I think the whole Test match, of course they'll be pleased to win it, and there are some positives. I think Leach getting a 5 in the second innings. Best. Look, as we've alluded to, I think didn't bowl the best, but he still got wickets in the Test match, so that still does count for something. There's still wickets in his wicket column, so that's a positive as well. And maybe he'll learn from the experience and then grow from it. And sometimes you have these type of Test matches like he has to learn from, so maybe he'll become better. And if he does play the second Test match, then perhaps he'll bowl a lot better. Who knows? Johnny Bairstow getting runs is a big plus, because there are a lot of question marks around him as to whether he would be. Well, I think, Matt said it yesterday in the day 4 review that he was a bit astounded that they gave him another chance, considering he's played like 70 odd tests, and it seems like they're going back a couple of years. But the 47 he scored in the first innings was quite vital at the time, because they were under a lot of pressure. So him and Joe Root at the time, that was quite a vital partnership. And to be honest, then I think catapulted that innings to that 4-2-1 score, to be fair. And he got them out of a sticky situation. And similarly here, I just saw them home with 35 not out. So I think that's a positive. And Dan Lawrence clearly played very well in this Test match on his debut, scoring 73 and then 21 not out. So I think there's some positives there for England. There are some things to work on and some negatives, but I'm sure we'll touch upon that. But I think overall, a positive Test match from an England point of view.
Yes, definitely a positive Test match from England point of view. You made some good points there, Fizan. In terms of stats, well, it's the first time in a while that England, this is the fourth consecutive overseas victory for England, coming on from I think they won 3 in a row in South Africa, and that's the first time they've done that since. Let me have a look. Since 1957, so it's quite an impressive feat from England. And also, you spoke about the 2 spinners, Bess and Leach, and they both got fifers in the Test match. And the last time England had 2 spinners getting 5 wickets each was in 1982. So some good signs for England going forward. And also, as you said, Fizan, Bairstow and Lawrence are both making a case for themselves to be selected for that India series. So things are looking good for England. What do you think about Sri Lanka, Arangan?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I think there are the difference, I suppose, with England and Sri Lanka is when you're looking at the England team, there's still quite a few players that, especially for India, might come in and change the perspective of things. So you've still got players like Pope, Burns, even Jofra Archer, Jimmy Anderson, who would just give England that extra dimension, whereas Sri Lanka don't really have that type of squad depth. There's, on a personal note for Thirumanni, it was a good performance considering that he's sort of come in, he's made his first century after about 7 years, so that was very good from a Sri Lankan batting perspective. They're down in terms of injuries. I think there are some positives, and the main thing again is consistency. For a team like this, they'll be looking at the England team, which is still a fairly strong England team, to be fair. And they can compete, and they almost competed. It's not as if they were completely out-bowled for 2 innings. They could bat despite Leach and best bowling well. I think the main thing for Sri Lanka is to sort of make every moment count. So they can't keep on putting in displays like they did in the first innings if they really want to compete with England. And it's still a very open series, to be fair.
Yes, and I think the key word that you said there, Arangan, was consistency. I think Sri Lanka have to put consistent performances together to win a Test match. They were excellent at times during day 3 and day 4, but that day 1 really let them down with that batting performance. And they have now lost 5 times in a row to England at home. And now that's quite a big stat, to be honest. And they'll be looking to the next Test match to put an end to that. And I wanted to say something to you, Arangan. It's quite interesting because, it wasn't too long ago Sri Lanka were in South Africa, and the quick turnaround. I think they only had 5 days maybe in Sri Lanka, and in England had a lot longer to prepare for this Test match. Do you think that is a factor? The fact that there is a quick turnaround, and what do you think? I think Mickey Arthur actually came out and said, actually, maybe Sri Lanka, they didn't have a quick turnaround. They had a quick turnaround. The batsmen didn't have enough time in the middle to get used to the surface, and to add to that is they're not played at home since August 2019. So do you think that is a factor, Arangan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think preparation is such a big thing especially for a Test series, and we're seeing more and more of it now. Like you take the India series, for example, and you've got players almost dropping like flies towards the end of it. Lots of players getting out injured, which was happening to Sri Lanka against South Africa. And then the way that they batted in the first innings, and also the way they bowled, they weren't really, you can see in terms of mentality, they weren't really treating it as a fresh new series, the first match of the first Test. So definitely in terms of preparation, we've seen that in professional sport everywhere during COVID, is that players have had a long period of time where they just absolutely haven't been doing anything. And then some of the things that we're seeing at the moment is almost village cricket in terms of the way that people are getting out the shots they're playing, run outs, people getting injured. It's just because they've had that disruption. The travelling is going to definitely be a big factor, but I think on the other hand, there are still a few relatively inexperienced Sri Lankan players, particularly some of the bowlers. So it's a good opportunity for them to get more experience under their belt, particularly bowling and playing with the quality of players that they may come up against, particularly in England, but also in South Africa as
well. Some good points there, Arangan. Fazan, what would you like to add to that? What would you like to add?
It's a difficult one because I see what your point is, Venu, and also Arangan as well. I think it's definitely a delicate situation. The reason why I say that is because Sri Lanka, I mean, they had played more Test cricket than England recently, but you guys are saying that it's worked against them. I think you can look at it 2 ways. They've clearly had some Test cricket, and they've had some time out in the middle, but in a different country. So the conditions are different. So that needs to be factored in. But at the same time, especially bowlers as well, they would have had, time out there, bowling, batting, making sure that they're match fit. Of course, Sri Lanka had a lot of injuries in that South Africa series as well, to be fair. So, I mean, not everyone played both the Test matches or even a whole Test match, to be fair, who played in that England match yesterday. For England, as you said, they haven't played since the summer. They've had a lot of time to prepare, so more practice matches, kind of inter-team matches, etc. So it's whether you're looking at, do you want more practice or do you want more time out in the middle in terms of competitive middle time against other countries? But I think when you factor in also that, Venu, you said that Sri Lanka hadn't played at home since August 2019, I think it was, you said. So that's a very long time, right? That's a year and a bit, nearly a year and a half. So I think that definitely plays a part as well. So I think everything together does. I think maybe Mickey Arthur's thinking they would have liked to have had maybe a couple more days just to prepare more, to maybe have it into team match as well, like England were able to. But what he will be thinking is, look, okay, maybe we haven't played our best. So then going into the second match, they will be more battle hardened, considering that they've just played a test match. Of course, England will be as well, and they will be used to the conditions. But with Sri Lanka, I think considering the last couple of days, well, especially day 3 and 4, it bodes well for them going into that second test match. So yeah, I think it definitely plays a part when you have a quick turnaround, because some players can get injured, etc. Luckily for Sri Lanka, none did, which is a positive, because hopefully they'll have more players coming back rather than going out through injury. So yeah, I think it depends on the players really, but I can see why he said that, to be fair.
So in terms of, let's look at the next test match, which begins on Friday. So I think, as Venu and Arangan have just pointed out, hopefully it will be more of a contest. And hopefully Sri Lanka will be more battle-hardened and ready for that test match, especially their batting unit. In terms of that test match, let's start with you, Arangan. What changes do you think Sri Lanka will make? If they will make any changes, that's for starters, because for one, their captain, Karan had to sit out of the first test match, and Tiramane opened, and he just got a century. So what do you think, what selection do you think Sri Lanka will make going into that second test match at the same venue in goal on Friday?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Karan Ratne, I think, has been captain of Sri Lanka for a while now, and I think in terms of, not just in terms of the batting perspective, but also in terms of what he brings to the team, in terms of his captaincy, I think there is a definite difference with him in the side. I think I remember we were at a Cricket World Cup game when in Sri Lanka were playing Australia, and he got up for about 97. And then after that, you just sort of felt that Sri Lanka's chances went away with it. And I think as a batsman, he'll probably add more to the team, and he'll probably add a little bit more depth. Whether that's at the expense of Thirumanne or whether they move someone else down the order, that will be seen. Just in terms of his injury, I'm not sure necessarily if he's out with a broken thumb, whether he'll be, in terms of the quick turnaround, whether he'll be able to come straight back in. I think some of the bowlers did quite well. So Mbaldini did quite well in terms of spinning. But again, I'm not sure how many players Sri Lanka with the quick turnaround can genuinely rely upon bringing back in, particularly in their seam attack. It looked a little bit one-sided and a little bit sort of one-dimensional at times against England. They've got 2 decent spinners. It would be good to see more of them. I think particularly in the way that some of the England batsmen got out, you can tell that they're sort of players like Sibley and Crawley are probably more used to facing fast bowlers at home and not quite used to the conditions that they faced in Sri Lanka, which is an interesting examination of how England are playing. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a pretty similar lineup, to be honest.
How about for England, Fizan? I think England do have, they've got a lot of players they can select, and they're in a better position in terms of squad depth than Sri Lanka are. So what do you think what changes will be made for the next test match for England?
I think it's difficult. I don't think they might not make any changes. I think the only change they may make is if Moeen Ali potentially is fit, but I think it's unlikely because he's come out of quarantine. He's training with the team, but obviously he hasn't had any match practice. So they may be thinking we don't want to put him in cold, basically. So that's the only thing I can potentially see happening. From an England point of view, they'll be hoping that I think Bess and Leach have more of an impact in the first and second innings, I think, and are looking more threatening, because I feel like in that first innings, as we've talked about a lot, the Sri Lankan batsmen got themselves out, but I don't think we're going to see that again from Sri Lanka. And if Sri Lanka had put on 100 more runs, I do think we would have had a very competitive match, and potentially Sri Lanka could have won it on day 5. So, of course, match situations do change depending on what's going on. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, so that's fine. In terms of England, though, I think changes-wise, Dan Lawrence played really well. So I don't see why they would. I would like to see Ben Folkes in there, but I don't think he's going to get a pick now that Bairstow and Dan Lawrence have both got runs. So let's see how it goes. But I feel like they're going to stick with the same team. The only change they may make is potentially bringing in Anderson, rotating him for Broad, or Wood didn't look that effective. So if Wokes, for example, is fit, they may pick him. So I think it's only going to be in the seamers department that they may change it around. But I think everything else is pretty much set. So you might see a change with Broad and Wood potentially, but apart from that, nothing really.
So thank you for that, Fizan, and thank you, Arangan, for that. So the next test match starts on Friday. So please tune in when we do review those test matches. But on the whole, it was quite a comfortable win for England. There was a bit of a scary moment for them last night, but I think you just put it down to the poor Sri Lanka first innings performance. However, there was some fight back from Sri Lanka, which was good, but it wasn't enough for them to get the victory or even get a draw. But overall, England are looking good, and it's a good start of their big year in terms of test matches, because they've got India coming up and they've also got the Ashes later on this year. So things are looking good for England, and there are things that Sri Lanka have to work on. So until then, actually, by the way, any concluding remarks, Arangan or Fizan? You all happy? All good? Awesome. So let's leave it there. And hopefully, please do like and subscribe to Fizan's channel as well. And thank you for watching Quality Shot, and we'll see you on another video soon. So bye for now.
Thank you.